Bienvenue, welcome everybody to Nomads. The Nomad. Welcome. My bad, I messed up. I don't normally mess it up. I don't normally mess it up.
Take two.
It's Kemo, man. It's
Alright,
Kemo. He's making you nervous.
we starting officially. Alright, bet. Bienvenue, welcome Nomads to episode 7 of Nomadic Stories. Today, Jimmy Lewis and I have a very special guest for you guys. We're extra excited today because today is our first guest that we did not meet in high school. We actually met early in 2020. We're about to have a great conversation for you guys today, as we always do when we speak to our guests. So today we'll be talking with Kemo. I consider him a good friend, a mentor. He's the founder and CEO of an ever-expanding company. He's a community organizer, visionary, and founder of Omek, whose mission it is to unlock and share talent, voices, and energy of the African diaspora. Kemo, you're very welcome to Nomadic Stories. Very happy to have you.
Wow, where is? I was like, where is it? This guy is so cool. You use the M word, man, like mentor. Wow. You killing me, man. Now I can. No, it's excited to be here, man. I'm pumped. I've seen all the amazing work you guys doing, and actually, was it yesterday or when? And then there was like something was popping up on Instagram that Jimmy is dropping something, and I was like all over it. I'm like, oh yeah, where is it? Like, yo, man, what you doing? I know you're gonna drop it or you're not gonna drop it. Like, work on it, man. So. Anyway, I'm excited to be here. It's cool to be the first guest. I like that first part to be like not part of the clique from high school. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. I love the thing that you guys doing, and I feel like it's a part of my being a nomadic. Last night actually was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I've been doing this like my whole entire life. So yeah, I'm excited to jump into it. Let's do this. Thanks for having me.
So the way we kind of start these conversations every time is we like to set the stage a little bit. So we try to see, like, obviously we already know that we have certain things in common. You're obviously at a later stage in life, but we like to kind of figure out and establish what your nomadic background is for our listeners. So maybe we can talk a little bit about where you were born and like when did your nomadic journey start, so to say.
Yes. I was born in Guinea, so one of those 4 Guineas. I actually say like, yeah, this is not biased at all. The Rio Guinea. So it's like every other one has a prefix or suffix on it. We are the only one that's like just Guinea.
Right.
Then you have like Equatorial Guinea, and then you have a Guinea-Bissau, and then you have a Papua New Guinea, but we're the only one who's like Guinea. So just plug in Guinea right there. So that's what I was born, and I grew up in a large family. We basically had like 9 siblings, and
Damn.
one mom, one pop. So kudos to them, man.
They held it down.
Yeah. So basically, like that, I think I always saw my parents like a building community. Like, my dad was one of those few first, actually, from his family. I'll technically even say from his village, who made out and went to the capital and then, studies, and they made out like farther than expected, way farther, like in the government, like, working directly with the president. And so he always leveraged that position he had to always help the community and then build the community. So that kind of became a DNA. Like that's all we knew like growing up. Not only had the nine siblings, but everybody from his family, because the way he was sent. So everybody from the village basically used him as a hub to send their kid. So he can do the same thing basically. And so his 9 kid was in like nothing. I don't ever remember growing up in the compound having the 9 people there. Never. It was like at its peak, I would definitely say we had like, 40, 50, sometimes 60 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, right? I'll go to school and I'll come back, like, on the break time. At 2 p.m. there's a break, or like after school, you come with your friends, and they'll be like, "Yo, is that a holiday here?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like lunchtime, right? There'll be like this huge cooking thing happening, and yeah, but that was normal. No, that's normal. But yeah, because my dad was working the government, he would travel. They would transfer him all the time, so almost every 3 or 4 years. So we were born in the capital in Conakry, and at one age we went to like another state, and then he was there for 3 years, and then one day you woke up at the radio and it's like, oh, your daddy was transfer, and then he got a promotion basically, and then so there's like all this like celebration, and boom, you take off, and all the friends that you made, like it just like cut out because there was like no such thing as the internet or telephone or all these like things that you got used to today. And so that whole thing will be done, and you go to another city. And I think I remember like at least 5 different times doing that in my growing up. So that
Oh
was
wow.
normal. That was normal to me. So like, yeah, I wasn't into yesterday. I was thinking about this topic. I'm like, yo, that's internally, that's why we had like a nomadic life even, like every
Mhm.
3 or 4 years we like, boom, you pack everything, you go, and then you make friends there. You have to make friends quick, so it kind of like gave me that ability to like learn how to make new friends, and then really like and move on and then go, like, you make a good friend and then you have your clique, and then boom, your dad is transferred again, and you pack and you go. So yeah, that's the early part, like internally happened. But for me, when I got to the university in Guinea, I had like this really vision was extremely clear. As someone who was growing up there, and it's like, man, the things that I want to do, I don't think the education in Guinea can give me what I want, especially when I got to the university, my first year there, I was like, no, like when I got out of this university, I'm going straight to the market, to the job market, and I'm not learning anything here. Like I'm not learning, okay, I'm not learning as much as I want to, right? So when I
Right.
get out of here, I don't have enough to apply. And so that freaked me out, and I'm like, I'm gonna go out. I want to go to the U.S. or the U.K. because I want to learn everything about capitalism, and come back and sit at the table. When the World Bank or IMF comes in, I want to be at the table. I want to be able to like, yo, I went to the same university. We work at the same company, so you can't intimidate me. So that was the linear thinking. That's why my international nomadic life started. First, I live in, out of Guinea. I live in Mali next door, for a few months.
Just
Kind of,
like us.
yeah. See, like that's all we can speak. Well, I was gonna use the Bambaran,
But
but I don't know, like
No.
people in the podcast here will be like, what are they talking about? So yeah, I live in Bamako for a bit. So that was my first international nomadic life. In still on the continent. Then after that, I moved to New York City. So that was cool. That was yeah. If you make it in New York, you make it anywhere. Um, so yeah, I did that. Lived there for a long time, and then moved from New York to Minnesota, which is like a totally two different states, country, mindset, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I did that, and then I grew up in the Minnesota. I went to school there, and then that's where I spent most of my life. Friends, my professional career, got married there. Then at one point, packed again, down to Germany, with my family. Came to Germany. That's been just a little about 5 years ago. We're in Germany there. I did my master there, and I built my community there. After 3 years, I was like, all right, let's do it again. Packed and then moved to Amsterdam. So that's just like a bird's eye view of my nomadic life, right? From
Right,
Wow.
right.
internally in Guinea to like internally in Africa to like all the other three continents. So yeah.
Wow. That's insane. That's insane.
I knew you were nomadic, but I didn't know you were that traveled actually. To be
Yeah,
honest.
right.
To be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's even like it wasn't until yesterday. It's like my life. There's like so much story there. Like it wasn't until last night that when I was talking about the podcast, I was like, oh yeah, that internal part, because I just took that for granted, right? And but yeah, I didn't realize that's just affected it so much. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how you said that like when you first started moving like from Guinea, right? Like you just had to cut off connection with your friends and with people you knew. As you know, obviously social media and everything developed up until now, have you rekindled some of those connections that you had to cut out initially?
Yeah. That's the beauty of social media, right? I mean, and not all of them. It's funny because my early memories, like the very beginning before I moved to Conakry, my first move, like I remember some of those, like not the faces of the people, but like how when you're 7, 8, some of the memories just like sitting there. You can remember this playing the playground, the things that we used to do, but I don't know the people anymore. Kind of like I remember, and so those people, not exactly, but like we still, because the family, they all like a family friend, so my parents are still connected with them. In high school, a lot of them I found them on Facebook. Mostly like in high school or lycée and then stuff like that, especially the friends from lycée. Find a lot of them, but like some of them, actually I have a friend of mine here in fifth grade. We're like really besties, like my best friend, right?
Wow.
Fifth grade, we left, this nomadic journey started. We didn't see each other into last year in Amsterdam here.
Jeez.
But somehow
That's how the world works.
we stayed connected. Like we completely went 10 years without hearing about each other. And he and my brother met somehow here in the Netherlands when they first moved here, like I think 15 years ago. And then we stayed connected that way. And then his sister got married to like that relationship. And then we kind of hear about each other and it's like, oh, okay, he's here, and then we connected through WhatsApp and Facebook, but we never saw each other. But it's crazy. Every time we talk after 20 years, after 15 years, we just picked up like exactly the last time when it's crazy. Last year, so I moved here and I was really pumped because he lived here in the Netherlands for for 20 plus years. And I moved here, and then the dude, the year that I moved here, and packed his stuff and moved somewhere else. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
That's the problem with nomads. They just keep going. They keep
He
going.
moved
Don't know when to
somewhere
stop.
else. And but he came to visit, and it's like he called me. It's like, yo, I'm in Amsterdam. I just came to visit for the wedding, and then we're on our way back. So I had him come, and we had for like almost close to 30 years we hadn't seen each other. But it was like we saw each other growing up. We were like just like under 10,
Wow.
and then growing up, like we all have a kid. But it felt like it's the weirdest thing. Like it felt like we just picked it up like where we left off. So yeah, that's one of the stories.
That's crazy. Because I feel like even though we're much younger, like I still have that with some friends that I don't see them for a couple years, and then I see them and nothing has, like, we've changed individually, of course, but the connection, the deep rooted connection hasn't changed. So it's kind of great to see that, that will probably or can last really, really long, like it has for you. That's so powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, you can definitely. Especially that's why it's important when you connect with people, like I have that foundation, because everything is on top of that, right? Like I know who you are, I know your character. Like even if we get disconnected 20 years later, when we come back, we picked up from there, like that spot. And then, but if that foundation is shaky, and if you do something wrong, like that will always be there. So even 5 years later, I don't want to have anything to do with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of foundations, I think it's quite a nice transition into talking a little bit about how we met, right? Because our relationship between me, you, Jimmy, and myself, I already said me, but kind of we're also in this like foundational stage, and I think it's been like over the last year we've been building like this trust by working together and stuff with the association that Jimmy and I are a part of, and Omek, obviously. I just wanted to talk a bit about how we met specifically, because I thought it was really awesome that I was just at home doing my thing, and out of the blue, I just get a phone call. And I was like, okay, who is this? I'm about to leave my house. Like, am I really gonna answer the phone right now? And I was like, all right, let me just pick up. It's cool. And it was you. Actually, I had no idea who you were, and you just started telling me about, you started telling me about your company and what your vision is. And from there, I was like, what is this about? You know, what is this about? And fast forward a little bit, we met, the three of us met online, and we start this relationship. We end up working together a lot, and like that's the reason that you're here today as well. We really connected, I think in part because of this sort of nomadic background that we share, and this common understanding that we have about relationships and about life as well. And now we work together on a regular basis, doing events, building networks. And I just find it so awesome that from a phone call, a single conversation can really lead to a lot, and can really have a powerful impact, essentially.
Yeah, it's good. I think you've been a little modest about it, because let me tell you my side of the story, right? So we can talk about Omek later, but like I started building Omek in 2019, and I was like, all right, I want to connect with network and organizations and all that stuff. So I reached out to your organization, the association, and the leadership there. We kind of chat, but it technically didn't go. Like I think they were busy or whatever, didn't go. And so yeah, and I focused on putting Omek, and a year goes by, and then I think you guys, like, the transition happened, and then I saw you, and like, oh, they have a new president now. It's like, oh, this is cool. Maybe like there's a new blood in the house. Let me check it out. And then I was surprised, like, your phone number was available. And so one of these, I just pick up the phone. I'm gonna call this guy. Um, I call him. I know, like, exactly, he was his way out. He said like, oh, on my way out, but it's cool. And I think, like, you can see my personality, right? For me, it's like the initial click, the smile, like that sense of opening the door, and that was there right away with you. Like when I called you, you're like, oh, I'm on my way out, but like, yeah, I can talk, like, let's chat. And but like that was like, there was like that click, that smile, that laugh that we had right away. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Then I start telling him about, Omek and why I'm reaching out and all that stuff. And it was just like, oh man, this dude is cool. Like, this is like, the vibe is so different than before. And then we just shot, and then he's like, yo, I want to hear about it. Like, this is like really cool. Like, I'm like, I hang up the phone. I'm like, wow, there's something different about this. Like, this this dude, but like this, like a new government guy, or like the new board that's coming up. So I was like really excited. And then, it didn't take that long. We set up the call. You like, let me talk to my brother. He's part of like the board. And long story short, like we had a conversation, and we are all on the same wavelength. Like, yo, this is what we're doing. You remember our conversation when we were talking? Like, I'm like, oh, this is my idea about like bringing the Afro students together. You like, yo, this is my idea about doing that. I'm like, man, what are we doing? Let's just keep pushing forward. But
Make it
I
work.
wonder, like, if the way we clicked the phone, because if he had pick up the phone, it could have been two-way, right? He could have picked up the phone and be like, I don't know this guy. So your voice would have just been negative, right? And when I had picked up that negative energy, trust me, it would have not been the same. I mean, I connect with people like,
Yeah.
through Omek. This is like, I do this all the time. So when you pick up the phone and you have like a negative energy, like right away, because you on your way out. Two, you don't know this guy called you on the random. He didn't text it. There was no plan. So that was all the reason for you to be like really cautious and not say, but like, so I don't know if like maybe you travel, maybe like for me, I connect with people from all background all the time. So that personality is already there. And when I find people that have the same personality, just like, yo, we got so much to do. The sky's the limit. We got like a lot of work to do. So having
Yes,
that
sir.
same mindset, the same people that have the same mind, the same purpose, it's just like, yo, let's go. That was our case, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
and I know
exactly.
you're saying that we've been working together, but man, we haven't even started yet.
For real though, that's facts. That's facts.
Just about that, right? Like, I I don't know. I think I've been trying to work on like having. I think it's important to have this attitude of like, having an open mind, because if I'm really honest, it's like you called me and I was like, okay, what's this about? And like I wasn't sure, and like I could have just been like, I whatever, this who is this random guy? Like let me just leave it. And of course, anytime that you're going into like uh especially because I was representing an association, so it wasn't just me. Like I always try to err a little bit on the side of caution, right? So I was still kind of like, okay, what's this about? Let's see. But I was like, I gotta keep an open mind, because this, Kemo, he seems super excited about what he's doing. Let me look into it. Let me see what it's about. And like having that open mind allows you to, actually have these new kinds of relationships and
Mhm.
ideas and stuff, because it's so easy to just like it's so easy, and I think a lot of people are quite closed-minded in that sense. It's like, well, who is this person? Like, what do they want? And I was just like, all right, well, I don't know. Let's just see. You know what I mean? And then that's how you build a trust. And then now it's like, bro, anything that we need to
Mm.
do, we're gonna make it happen. And one thing for me is like that's what I've been thinking a lot recently, and also I think after our whole encounter that I started thinking about more, because I saw it somewhere where it's like I try to trust people from the get go. I try to trust people. I'm cautious, but I try to trust people from the get go, and then from there, then if they betray your trust or they miss your trust, they lose it. But I try to give my trust to people, because that's how I can meet a lot of people. That's how I can build strong relationships and have
Yeah.
strong foundations. I'm not trying to be doubtful and like, oh, what do they want? And you know what I mean? Like just it allows me this freedom kind of
Mm. Mm.
when I'm meeting new people, I think.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because the serendipity, what if it was any serendipity, but the fact that you were open-minded to that conversation, opened a lot of door. And I think that you
Mm,
mentioned something, because for me that I learned that from my mom. So like I used to hear her saying this all the time, like because the position that they had, there was always people coming to them, and so like a lot of people were taking advantage, just coming and like takers, right? The taker a concept, but that never stopped her. Like her first initiative, her first instincts, like she trusts first, and then if you break that trust, then like then that's on you.
Mhm.
That's definitely on you. And then for me, I'm like that way, and then I kind of like realize that as I'm being put more like in the community leadership and in community building and all that stuff, like I talk to a
mhm.
lot of people, their starting point is build the trust. You're not gonna get my trust from the get-go. And my starting point is like you have 100% my trust. And then let's start from there. Let's start it, because this is who I am. And so I can't, like, even if I try it, like it's so much energy for me to like start from like not trusting somebody
Mhm.
and then build it from there. It's not natural for me. So it's like it's so much
Mm.
energy, right? But it doesn't mean like because you start with the trust that you crazy or you stupid. Like, no, it's not. That's my
Yep.
personality. Like I'm gonna start that way
Yes, sir.
and then see, then I'm also aware that there are gonna be people who are giver and the people who are taker. They're
Yep.
only there to take away from you. And then once you see that's what they're doing, then you cut out the relationship, you go. But I think it's like a lot of work, especially knowing the personality. So I think it's important to know what kind of personality you have. Like, are you is someone who start like, I'm not saying it's wrong. That if that's your personality, if you start by people saying people like they have to build the trust, they have to earn your trust first, then the negative aspect that comes to that. And then for us who start with the other side of open-minded to opportunity, listen. If you're the one like receiving the inbound call or whatever, first interaction. But if you're on the other side too, like what I would say, because I was confident enough to give him my website and just like, go check it out. Like, this is what we're doing. Look it out. Like, so at least there's a reference point where you can go and it's like, oh, okay, this guy's for real. Like, look what they're doing. There's a proof there. And so that's on the other aspect of the interaction, right? If you're reaching out to people, be doing something already. Like give them something to look at, have some credibility that they can look at, right? So if you reach out, maybe they care or not, but like at least you be like, this is what I'm doing. Maybe you don't vibe with it, then that's fine. Maybe we're not the one to, but like at least have something that they can check out too.
I completely agree, and I also think that like just in this type of relationship and this type of interaction, like the key thing was first connecting, like, because at the end of the day, like you were reaching out to the association because it was like, all right, we want to work together and try to align our visions, right? So in that sense, I feel like in general, a lot of people can approach it in a more professional way. Like, this is going to be a transactional relationship. Let's start like that. Whereas in this situation, it was more like, let's try to really understand each other, like connecting on character first. Because at the end of the day, like it comes back down to that foundation. If that character foundation is not there, if you guys don't understand each other on a deeper level, then everything else is just going to be, half-assed, and it's not really going to be able to like unlock the maximum potential, So I think that's also key, connecting on the character first, and then everything else from there becomes so much easier.
Yeah, man, I want to connect all these points because this podcast and it's like the nomadic life, and I think it's all connected, right? Think about the example that I gave earlier. Like some of my friends, like 20 years we haven't seen each other, and we talk on the phone and we see each other like when we all have a kid, and it just picked up like exactly where we left off, right? And so my conversation with you guys, you probably remember that our first conversations about building the relationship. Like everything else will come after that. Like let's build this trust, this rapport first. And I think that's extremely important. That's why I pick up the phone. I could have like sent an email. I could have like gone on DM and then do that. When I saw your phone number, I'm like, I'm gonna call this number. Right? And then so sometimes that's what it is. And maybe I think being a nomadic for someone who's traveled in so many places, you got so many experience, like living the American life, living the German life, living the Malian life, living the culture here, like culture within culture. Like I see all this, and then I think the advantage that we have is that people aspect, that human aspect. It doesn't matter like where people live, what kind of like culture they have. We can navigate all that. I think the biggest connecting point comes back the most simplest thing, the human side of it. If you are able to connect with people on the human side and build that trust, we connected through that association, right? I have no idea what else you guys do beside, outside that. So if it was like a totally a professional approach, it would have just stayed there. And now we like, that trust is building. And then now we're doing more things. Like, it's like the sky is really the limit. It's not that association. Like we can cut up our relationship right now and then pick up a 20 years. Guess what we're going to think about? That conversation we had. You know what I'm saying? There's the emotion that we had. And so we put in the foundation in place, and then everything is going to be on top of that. So like, I think for me, definitely I connect with my like ability to like live in so many places, to talk to so many people, different culture, different background, different mindset, and everything. It just help, right? If you can connect, that's it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. Like I was gonna say, like what you guys are talking about, building this trust and connection with people. I think it's really evident amongst everyone really that has an open mind, but especially for like someone that's lived in so many different countries and different environments, because like that's kind of how you survive. You're being put into a new place, a new everything, culture. Like if you're moving somewhere new, you're being dropped into a whole different situation. So you kind of need to have that open mind and have the willingness to build that trust, to build your new foundation, so to speak, and like create those networks. You know what I mean? Talking about networks, I think it'll be really interesting for the people that don't know, like myself, to get into a bit more about what is this organization that you've created called Omek. And just from like the website link that Marty sent me, I did a little bit of research, I'm not gonna lie. But from my understanding, just if that's okay to say what I think about it,
Yeah.
my point of view is like, it looks like you're trying to build, well, first of all, I think that there's a couple of connections between Nomadic and Omek and what you're doing, which I think is a beautiful thing. So you're trying to create this sort of almost platform or network that bridges people like the African diaspora together in multiple different ways, by creating events, by just getting people to collaborate together and giving them the opportunity to do that, which I think is kind of also in our vision as well. But yeah, what would you say was your inspiration to create Omek?
Yeah. All right. Where do I start? So basically, I think you got that right. That's a good. I'm glad that you just checked it out. So Omek, what are we trying to do, to put it like a plain simple, is to make connection and collaboration normal, connection and collaboration simple for bicultural of African descent. That's what we're trying to do. That we're trying to crack that code. I can give you a quick backdrop to that. What does that mean, and where does that come from? And I told you guys a little bit about my background. I'm born in this big, like family of 9 siblings, but grew up in this compound where it's like 40, 50 sometime people in there. And so like if you lived in Africa, and then that concept, like you have your dad, your uncles, like all there, the aunties are there, the big brother, the big sisters are there, and then you have your generation, then you have like generation after you, right? So you have like the ladies, and then the boys and the men's, and so like it really, the compound was like this mix of a human technology that was happening there, where the respect, like in back home, and then being in the Muslim family as well. So there's 2 culture coming together, where you cannot raise your voice to your parents. Like, no, that's not even part. It's just not. So like the hierarchical respect is there. Like you respect your parents, you respect your elders. So mom, dad, aunties, like they just naturally get this respect, which they give you back as well. And so when you do something wrong, like you are told that you did something wrong, and then you'll be lucky if you don't have your butt, exactly. Sometimes you are told, this is what you did. You know the magnitude of what you did. Go get the branches, or like go get the belt. So if you bring a smaller thing, that's small. Well, you guys know what I'm talking about. So
Right, okay.
So this is all teaching you like there's the consequences for your actions. So you grew up in this space where everybody has the role, everybody have the responsibility, everybody does their place, everybody plays a role into making that system work. And that was like that human technology I grew up in, and I understand like people above me have some sort of responsibility, and I have some respect for them, and people behind me are looking up to me as well, and then I need to provide them some respect and then provide it back, right? And so that stays in me. So think about that. And now I moved to the US. I'm working in the corporate world. I'm making my way up there, and I'll always get connected with the community. So I'm always bringing the community aspect to the corporate space, just trying to be myself, authentic self, but at the same time learning expertise from corporate to community. I became this bridge, build a community around that in the US, and I moved to Germany. I did my master in development and economics, and then I decided to write my thesis about the African diaspora. How can you really leverage the African diaspora potential, the capital they have, whether that's like human capital, social capital, networking, and all that stuff, and financial capital they have. Then now you have like a philanthropy capital, like the political capital, and all that. How do you leverage that? And that's one of my passion really, because I'm like, yo, this is me. Like I'm professional for African descent, right? So I know I lived it. And now if I do it through academic research, then I can see why people write in the paper, and then I kind of know the back end of it. And so that's led me to talk to so many people in Germany, in France, in Belgium, and even in the Netherlands here, but also in the US. And so kind of like that's where really the genesis of Omek came from, right? So like the potential within the diaspora is real. Like I find myself in the privileged space to like lived it, because I moved and I went to school there. I came with different mindset. I went to school and I found all these challenges. So I lived it. But like interviewing people and then hearing their experience, oh, it's not only me. But I realized there's so many talented people within the community that nobody sees them, nobody knows about it. Like, but they're all doing their stuff. They're all amazing people. So we all doing our own thing and then trying to make impact, trying to change. And the way I think about it now is like we are on this path. It doesn't matter. Some might be way ahead, some might be way behind, but we are all on this path of creating the change that we want to see, of being part of something that's bigger than ourselves, than not putting up in the anymore and see like social injustice, like this narrative, like all this on this path. But we live at the same time in this black box. Like you think about like this highway, we all driving on, but we can't see each other. So you think
Damn.
you're only one on this path, but there's millions other like driving on the same path.
Yeah.
And that's how I realized like we are all and doing this amazing stuff, but we can't see each other. So the idea where kind of talk about normalizing the connection and collaboration, that's where it's come. Like let make it normal. Let turn on the light, the street light on this path, so we can all see each other. Let's start from there. When we see each other,
That's powerful.
that's the first step. Like right. Because think about like Marty, Jimmy, and I, like what the little thing that we have done so far. We only met each other not too long ago. And if we hadn't seen each other, that's never happened. We'll never have this conversation. It's because like the lights came on and we saw each other and we start talking and we start working together and we start collaborating and we start building trust. And look, like now we're only thinking about the sky is the limit. And so that's basically that's the example of like Omek, right? Let's turn on this light. Let's remove ourselves from this black box. When we do that, when we make this connection normal, we normalize this connection. And so like this is my line, right? That I say, if you see each other, you talk to each other. When you talk to each other, you start building trust. When you build trust, you start collaborating. And when you start collaborating, the sky's the limit. And that's exactly like our relationship, right? We saw each other. I saw that phone number. I saw her on social media. I call him. We start talking, right? We start talking. We start building trust. I told them like, this is my philosophy, right? We build trust. Let's start building trust. And now we start collaborating, right? And now the conversation what we have now, like the sky's the limit. I'm just like, we haven't started yet. And that's the example of like Omek. That's what we want to normalize. But like again, understanding the concept of this is not easy. It's a human. As a human, we come up with this, like our social challenges. And then like there's all this aspect. Like what is that connection happen? First of all, how do we see each other? So we need to work on that part and then make that possible. When we see each other, how do we connect? Like the networking. What is the networking? How do we network? What are the tools and the resources that we need to provide to network? What is our mindset right now as a people of African descent, as a bicultural of African descent, in terms of networking? Do we understand that? What is this thing that we need to do? So Omek, like for us, we need to put all these things in place. But that's what I was saying, like we're normalizing it. But behind the scene, there's tons of work we have to do to make that concept normal. So that's in a nutshell. That's what we're trying to build. So Omek is gonna be this platform. This in my head is almost this compound. Like my family's compound where I grew up. It's gonna be that where we all doing our own thing, but we all have our responsibility, our role, and our space. But it's all in this space where it works, like beautifully together, complementing each other. You are a dad, you're a mom, you're an auntie, you all know your role in your place. And it's so like all working together beautifully. So that's the concept of Omek that I'm trying to bring back because I've seen it work. I've seen my parents do it, but like the advantage that I have that they didn't have is something called the internet. It's something called the technological
Yes,
proliferation.
sir.
Is something called the psychographic segmentation that I did, focus on the bicultural, like all these tools that they didn't have that I have in my generation right now. I want to put that together. But what they had is that human technology.
Yeah.
And so like how do you take that human technology that they had and add that to the digital technology? Yo, and take off. That's what we're trying to do, man. So that's
Man.
Omek.
That's
Um,
beautiful. That metaphor of well, it's not exactly, it is a metaphor, but it's like
Yeah.
a real thing that you experience, you know, the compound. And that's part of what I saw on the website, like just like a bunch of people in one area, but everyone has their assigned roles and knows what they're doing. And like together, the potential that those people hold together is like amazing. Like that they can, yeah, like you say, the sky's the limit, literally. And yeah, I just think that's a beautiful thing. I was gonna ask before what Omek stands for, and then I realized that my man just switched his name around, changed it around. I was like, yeah, you really just turned his name
man.
around. That's what's
One
up.
of the elite. You're one of the elite. There's like 5% of people that actually are able to like see it.
No way, no
Yeah,
way.
so you're part of the 5%.
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up. I like that.
Yeah, Lewis, you're clever, man. I had to look it up. I'm not gonna lie, man.
I-
I had to look it up.
Trust me, it took time,
Bro.
dude. I was just staring at his name, like making the
Dude,
connection. But yeah.
Man, I don't think I've ever heard a story that, well, if I don't know, in a long time at least, that feels so full circle. Like the way you brought it back to the compound and how all like you do, yeah, this is
Yeah.
it's insane. It's so beautiful to
It's prob-
see. It really shows how your experiences growing up from the moment you were born to now have really like shaped your worldview and shaped this organization. And like, man, it's insane. It's so powerful, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing, right? I think this is like really for this. I think for this podcast sake, and then the audience, and then everything, because like your audience is like this. This is the community. Like this is something that we have that's so precious. Like sometimes we don't even realize, and that's what I'm like. I love what you guys doing to like. No, listen, this life that we have, we are in the unique privileged space. And then it's like, and this is a journey to understand how do you connect everything together, but how much of the advantage is like for me into like I got this Omek journey and I'm still in the journey and figuring this one out. Like that's what it is. Like I was like, man, like I've done all this and in my life sometimes like what have I done? Like how can I contribute in this world? Like I'm still asking myself that question, but like as you start connecting the dots, then you start realizing the power, the potential that you have, like the special every day that you live in, every movement, every change that you want, all the people that you coming across, they all happen for a reason. And we haven't been
Yep.
able to connect the dot. You know what I'm saying? And so like
Yeah.
the fact, like I think you guys were telling me the story, like where the nomadic concept came from, right? It's the same. It's like literally it's the same, but the more you think even about it a long time, then you start making all these connections.
Yeah.
And then like it start becoming like, the idea of being authentic, the idea of showing up authentic, like, yo, how you telling, like this is me. Like the more you understand yourself really strongly, and then that centers you, and then the more you can like even give back. So yeah, I think we all in this journey, and yeah, the sooner we started to understand that, the better, the more impact we can make. And then the best way to do that, to understand that, is to be around other people that think this way, right? I'm on this path, and then connecting everything that's like been in my life, my family, who am I, like why, like this passion that I have, like even learning like from my mom that the fact that I trust people, that's coming from my mom. The fact that I do this, that's coming from where I'm still on this path of connecting this journey. So like if I have a more people that's on this path and thinking that way, it making my path easier. But when I share my story, then it allow you to think about your story as well, and then together we, like always moving. The more we talking to each other, the more we connecting with each other, the faster we're growing, right? As a collective.
Yeah, and you know what I think as well is like this like journey of trying to connect the dots and discovering all these discovering how everything makes sense together. I feel like what's really crazy is it seems like that journey is never ending, and I don't think you're ever gonna reach a point where you're gonna be like, all right, I get everything now. It all makes sense. I feel like you're gonna have that multiple times. You're gonna be like, this makes so much sense, and then a year later you're going to discover so many more new things. So I think it's crazy that that's just going to be a never ending journey of discovery, and like also kind of coming to terms with the fact that like you're never going to know completely everything, but it's just all like you're never going to be like it's never going to be perfectly like it's never going to reach like a dead end, you know. It's always going to be
Yeah.
like leveling up and leveling up, and that's so exciting, man. Honestly.
Yeah, the day that's gonna happen, that's the day you die.
You know, that's the only dead end you reach. That's the only dead end you'll reach.
Yep. So hopefully, I don't want that to happen yet. You know what I'm saying? The day you like, no, I got it. Everything is here. Then that's when you're like, okay, that's it. Your journey is over.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say then maybe Jimmy, because you talked about the whole Omek coming into being, kind of being full circle. Maybe it's more like being a spiral. So you're passing these these older circles that happened like as you were younger, like this whole compound thing, and it's building up more and more as you're going through life, sort of thing. But you're passing these stages that you've passed in the past, and it's just expanding.
Right.
So to say, if I can be a little bit metaphorical here.
Went from circle to spiral. Yeah.
But basically, you referenced earlier that there's kind of this parallel, right, between what you're doing with Omek and what we're trying to do with Nomadic. And what I wanted to kind of point out was that, like, the way that you started Omek and how there's this connection to your youth, so to say, and this idea of human technology and these connections, and kind of taking this to a bigger stage, so to say, is like, that's at its core, that's what we're trying to do as well. And that's why I think we also connect really well, because with our experience, right, going to like international schools and stuff like that, basically always being around people from all over the place, and people leaving and coming. And one thing that one thing that we always say, like, between some of our friends, right, it's like when we say bye to somebody, or when we haven't seen someone for a long time, we say on est ensemble, we're together. And it's like a concept that means something more than we are together, but that's how you say it, if you get what I mean. And that whole idea is kind of like a spark that started Nomadic to an extent, right? It's this idea that people are leaving and going and coming in and out of your life and stuff like that, but there's always this connection still, and this foundation. And we noticed that these connections are very, very powerful, right? And so we said, okay, what can we do? What can we create to kind of keep these connections? Like, even though these connections are like, they can span as much time as you want and they'll still be there, but what can we kind of do to make sure that these connections are being built still and staying alive and being nurtured, so to say? So that's where we kind of came up with this collective, because we all came apart, but we said, what can be in the middle that kind of keeps us together, so to say?
Yeah.
And how can we bring more people into that, which is why we're trying to build this like nomadic community, so to say. And I just thought it was really awesome how, we have this kind of parallel where we're kind of doing the same thing but differently, and at different scales also. But no, Jimmy, go ahead.
No. I would keep going, man. I was just gonna say, well said. Very, very well said.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So it's like, it's similar again, where it's kind of like these experiences that we have in our life, and the fact that we took time to like sit down and reflect on these concepts, right? Because my brother and I, we sat down here, like here in Zambia, like 2 years ago, we sat down and we're like, man, what is this? Like, what does it mean when we say we're together to our friends to leave for a long time, or like this idea of understanding each other, you know? Like I have it as well with, and that's why things like Omek and these networks can be so powerful, because it's this common understanding that we have, right? Because like I have this with people that I don't even know that well. You know what I mean? It's like you meet these people and you talk and you just understand each other, and like that's when you get that moment on ensemble. We're together. Like I have this with someone that I met literally. It's Jan actually. I'll shout you out. Like I met him very very briefly, at like a sports tournament. But I knew from that day, like, all right, man, this guy's legit. We understand each other in this sense. And we've worked with him with Nomadic like ever since, and we've spoken. And there's these kind of silent understandings, and like we want to use Nomadic to like exploit these kind of relationships to build things up, help each other, and that kind of thing. And it's like when you take the time to sit down and reflect on things, that's when it's like you can create something from your experience, and build on that really. Yeah,
Yeah,
also
no,
just
I agree. I agree. I think the thing that I loved about like the concept of nomadic when we were having a conversation is like, yo, at one point after high school, you all went to a different way, right? And then at that point, it's like, man, I'm losing all my friends. I'm moving up, and this is like really like, but flipping that over, and it's like, yo, if you went to China, you went to Amsterdam, or you went to to the US, basically like we are together and then we went. So like that's three different culture that you all grab there. And then so if you come together and collectively you're even more powerful and stronger, right, than
Yeah.
you were
This
before.
is exactly.
Ooh, I like
we're
And
that.
so
gone, bro.
for me, that was like, yo, it just flipped the whole concept. And that's happening right now. Like, but like the beauty of that, before, I don't know if you guys, there's been this concept, this study of like the African diaspora, or like the thing that people are talking about, the brain drain, right? The brain drain. So like all the young, talented African leave and then go to the West, and the West is taking all the power, all the brain away from the continent. And but like just to make the connection here, they'll go away and they're learning all this, but the African has never lived. Right? Me, I've
Yeah.
been out of the continent for 20 years now. Everything that I'm doing with Omek is connected to this concept, right? How do I impact the continent? But I'm gonna do it first with the diaspora. I'm gonna amplify their voice, and they have a bigger power and a bigger idea of doing. Then when they go back to the continent, want to make an impact, instead of having one person make it, then you have like a tribe that can say like build a school, and then 1,000 people want to build a school, come together and they build a school. So the power is amplified. So that's never gone away. And so people can be like, oh, the continent lost a brand. No, it didn't. Like basically what happened is like it went to amplify itself. And then that's the concept
Yeah.
of nomadic, right? Now, if you come together, you'll be like, yo, what is this culture like? What is this? So you, as someone who's been in Amsterdam, it's like all of a sudden you know about like 5, 10, 20 different culture. And so you're definitely a better person now than you were
Yeah.
before. So like you guys flip that over and make it a positive thing. And I think that's the beauty, right? That's the beauty.
Yeah.
And then that's the journey we on. Like the reason it clicks so well is because we're all on this path, the same path. This land might be the land that works so much better. So you're on that corner and they're doing the hunting it, but like seeing everybody else that's on that same path, that's like you don't even need to talk. You don't even need to communicate it. You kind of know like there's this thing, right?
yeah,
And so that for me, it's like when you started explaining, I'm like, yo, yes, what are you guys doing is dope.
yeah,
Like listen, there's a millions and millions of people out there that have not heard Omek, they have not heard about Nomadic, they have not heard about like tons of other people out there. And still we have to turn on the light on the highway so we can see each other, man.
Yeah.
Um,
yep.
so yeah.
For real.
I mean, that's like one thing, like one of our early kind of mottos or like sentences that we wanted to be associated with Nomadic, right, was like distance and diversity is our strength, you know. It's this fact that we're going all over the place. We're all becoming different as we're going to these different places. But when we come together, we're all the better for it, you know?
Yeah. It's a superpower. It's our superpower.
Yeah. One thing I did want to speak about also in regards to Omek was like, this idea is really beautiful, and you know, I definitely believe in it a lot. So maybe we can talk a little bit about what this looks like in practice.
Yeah. So what does this look like in practice? So basically, when I had this beautiful idea, and it's still developing, it would always be developing to like Omek is dead, or but yeah, I kind of talked to you about the concept and what you're trying to build, but how does that work, like in reality? And for me, having my whole life in community, like before I was born, my family was doing this, so I grew up in it. So like now I say like I've been in this space for my whole life, right? And community building when I was in the state, I understand from like in and out, like from the association aspect, you know, the noises, the complication, the complexity, and also my target audience, the people of African descent, you know, the complexity that in that, the dynamic within there. So knowing all that, so I was like, all this professional background that I have, entrepreneurial spirit, like if I bring all of them together, how can I build Omek so it's like really sustainable and practical happen? So one time, the first thing I did, I went in an incubator program to like kind of like started understanding the thing. And so it's a startup right now. And so where it starts is, right, I want to build a digital platform, right, where we kind of really like access and visibility and make it possible. So we're working on that right now. But before even that, the first thing that I was like, maybe I should explain this briefly here. The first thing I did, why I really wanted to create Omek again, I think this is actually really important, was this concept of psychographic segmentation. Right. So I talked to you about like the dynamic, the complexity within the African diaspora. If you look at the African diaspora overall, the term diaspora is like all the people of African descent who still feel connected to the continent. Whether that's geographically connected, they still have a parent, like a contemporary like us, who still have a family parent there. But like the classic diaspora who's like moved through slavery and that, they don't have that connection, but they still have that sentiment, that feeling, the continent, this is the source, right? And so all these people, so that's like already the contemporary and the classic, there's one dynamic from there. And there's another dynamic within the continent, the contemporary of them. So, oh, I'm a Ghanaian, I'm a Guinean, I'm a, you know, Nigerian, I'm a South African. So there's that. That's all connected by the geographical segmentation. So basically, today, African diaspora is grouped by the geographical profile. You're Caribbean, you're African American, you're African, if you say that, or contemporary African. So that's that. And then geographically be within the continent, countries themselves. Like then you have like a, tribal. I'm an Igbo, I'm Mandingo, I'm Susu, and then all that. So that's adding the complexity. And that's what it's making like extremely hard for the community to come together. So for me, what transcends that is like this psychographic segmentation that I did. Psychographic segmentation basically means I'm grouping people based on their mindset, based on the shared passion, the shared vision, the shared value. And that's where we all connected, and we kind of cannot even explain there's something there, right? It's because of that shared passion, not our geographical profile, but our psychographic profile. And so using that technique, I divided the community in 4 groups, right? One group being the cultural advocate. In the diaspora, there's like these people, probably the dads, like that first came in and they migrated here to give their kid the better life. And so a lot of them, their mindset is basically like they work, blue collar life, long hours, and all they care about is like going to the church, going to the mosque, like a social aspect at the end. They don't care about changing the world, right? So that's that group. Then also you have like a next group, like the uncles who were professional back home. They were doctor, they were professor, they were like, physician and whatever, they had the status. And then they migrated to give, better life. And then unfortunately, sometimes it didn't translate. When they came in, they either taxi driver or a Uber driver or like, so there's that group with like a really cultural affirmer. And then you have the kid from those two groups with like the bicultural that I call the bicultural, like they either was born, in the West, or they came like really young. And so they understand this culture, like they belong this culture. This is their, home is a, African. Outside, they're like a Dutch, French, American, like whatever, right? So for me, that's my target audience. And then the fourth group is like the assimilator. Basically, they completely cut themselves off the community, right? So it's like I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm completely assimilating, right? So that's that four group. So think about it now. When you put all these four groups like a different mindset into a same group and then say like work together, how an assimilator who's in like SVP, who's like a senior executive, and then in society and come to the cultural advocate to like they're like, I don't even believe in God. Like, what are you guys talking about? So it just never worked, right? And so for me, Omek target audience right now is like the bicultural. And because of the nomadic life that you guys talking about, like the Omek, like this bicultural identity that they have, it's a unique space, a unique characteristic that they have that their parents don't have. And so they don't have, even though they're all African descent. So that's the first start. That's the practical part. So when you bring these people together, right, they already have the mindset. They're already on this path. They're already doing it. They are doing like you guys doing the work. Omek is doing the work. There's so many other people. They're already doing the work. They really don't care like if I'm Ghanaian or not. If I'm an entrepreneur, I want to be around other entrepreneurs that understand why we stay up night. Like it doesn't matter. Just give me and support me. So when I crack that code, I'm like, all right, that's the first segment. So once that segment, and it's like just talking to them and then telling them the message and bringing them. So I want to build a digital platform where they can come in. So once you call them, that's a step one. We come in that space, then what? Right? And now we have like all these services, all these resources, all this feature that we're going to build to really make sure like that part of connection, right? That part of networking. What is networking? What is connection? What are the tools and resources? Why, as a bicultural for African descent, why is it not natural for us to connect? Why is it not natural for us to collaborate? We need to understand that, right? So you can't solve a problem that you don't understand. And so we're going to have all these tools and resources put in place to make sure we understand that, make sure we're making connection really normal. So we're building all these features right now. So that's the part of like, also like building, this Afro student network. Like, let's start seeing each other. Let's start reaching out to these people. Let's start having these conversations. So like awareness. Once we do that, the platform is ready. People come on the platform. I have like access to all this like content provider, all these like people like really when the people start coming. The first thing we want to start doing is to really hone in that networking. Why this is happening, why this is happening, and how do we do it, who's doing it, what are the things that they're doing. And so we start putting down the platform and it's like really start going from there. And so I think there's like a lot of concept we want to put in there, the future that we have, like that's totally gonna revolutionize like what it is when you come to a space like this. Like really how you stand out, how do you really support order, how do you really give back, how do you already like a support and then move people forward. So that's in the nutshell what are we trying to do. So the concept of Omek is there's basically three pillar, right? The first pillar is the digital space. So we want to build this digital platform so we can remove like this idea of a black box, right? So we can see each other, access and visibility anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter if someone in China or in Jakarta, or it doesn't matter where you are. You should be able to find bicultural of African descent anywhere, anytime. That's the digital aspect of it. Then we also want to have a physical space. Because people of African descent, this is a natural in us, right? It's like important to see each other. It's important to like, it is part of our DNA, so we cannot take that away. So we want to have that physical, so we want to bridge the online and the physical space. And when we do that, now we're gonna like the third leg, the pillar is gonna be a collaboration with brands, institution, companies, and say like, yo, this is what we bring into the table, right? This is what we have to say. We know our problem better than anybody. We know our solution better than anybody. This is a solution. What do you think? Do you like it? Let roll. You don't like it? That's fine. Like, so that's the concept of Omek.
I found it interesting about the I forget what you
Psychographic segmentation. Yeah.
Psychographic segmentation. That was interesting that you, I don't know where, like, did you kind of group it like that yourself, or was that?
Yeah. So basically, what happened is that when I was doing the research, I came across this article from the Harvard Business School, and they did a diaspora study from the marketing perspective. So how do you market to the diaspora? I think it was like the Indian businesses are coming to from India to like to UK or the US. How do they, So I read that. I'm like, oh man, this is dope, because all the knowledge I had, all the experience I have about the African diaspora, I was like, then I kind of used that study, the psychographic concept, and then applied that to the African diaspora. And so that's like because I know all this group, I've been working, like I'm part of all this group. Like I've been doing the community association. I'm still part of the community association. I've been president of the community association. And so that's a big part of my life. But like before, what was my biggest problem is like I'll go in there and with the same mindset. And so I'll go in the community association. And it's like, no, man, we need to change the world. We need to do all this. They don't even hear what I'm saying. Then it's becoming noise, right? Like it becoming noise there. And think about it as like, what are we talking about right now? Like this concept, like you go in there, it won't work. And so kind of people mix all this and they create all this. I'm like, oh man, if you kind of like, now I go in the community association space, yo, I'm gonna just meet them where they are. I'm not talking about Omek. Nobody knows I'm doing Omek. That's me and then the bicultural, right? We can talk about that. When I come to the bicultural space, we can talk about that. But when I come to this place, it's all about social. It's all about me understanding the cultural aspect. It's all about me looking at them, appreciating them, like seeing like, yo, you guys still can speak the dialect 20 times better than I can. I'm going to just sit here and learn from you. So you meet them where they are. So understanding people's mindset. So, yeah. This is something that I think I'm actually in the process of building a master class about it, because I think it's so important. The more we can start understanding people, the more we can create awareness in this space. Even beyond Omek, I see this as the key of transcending the noises within the community. Because if you understand everybody's role, everybody's mindset for each of these 4 groups, when you meet each of them, you know how to talk to them.
Yep.
You know how to appreciate them. And once you start doing that, once you start appreciating people, then they appreciate you. Then they're like, oh, like how the old school say, like, not old school, but the parents like, we don't understand these kids. They don't care about whatever we're doing. Like, it's just like, and then you're like, Dad, come on, man, Mom, what are you doing? You are like totally a different wave. But now if you crack this code, then you can sit with your dad. It's like, Dad is the guardian of our culture. And so if we want to like put the African culture back where it belongs, then these people are the key. You know what I'm saying? So once you start having that appreciation, then you start sitting down. For me, like at this age, I'm so sit down with these people and I'm like, yo, you speak Mandingo better than I do. Like, how can I learn more? Like, I just listen. You understand the cultural, that aspect. So I don't want you to, like, I want you to be appreciated so we can appreciate the African culture. Yep. So that's the solution there to, like, solving the noises within the community. And so for me, I feel like, this is a must for me to build this concept and really, like, create a bigger awareness in the space as a solution.
And just to, like, just to, I guess for people also watching this to understand a bit better, like I can give like an example that I was a part of. So like recently Omek organized the Under the Baobab session. It's this session that they have like on a regular basis where community members, Omek community members, right, come together to discuss different topics in like very much a style of just, you know, hanging out, having a conversation very freely. And this talk was actually about student associations. So I spoke on a panel there, and of course we had very interesting discussions about what Afro student associations can do for their respective communities, what can they do together in a larger network. But what I think is so powerful about creating these discussions and connections is that when the event was supposed to end, a bunch of us actually stayed on, and we started talking about, or Kemo brought up the topic of bicultural identity, because most of us in that conversation were from the diaspora. And I think one thing that's also very important, because you said you're bridging the gap between like these different kind of segments of thinking within the diaspora, right? But even within that one segment, I have very different conceptualization and ideas about what it means to be bicultural than do some other people who grew up biculturally but still very differently from me. So while we do understand each other in a certain way, we had this amazing like 2-hour long conversation that lasted into the night, basically, about what it means to be bicultural and having bicultural experiences in different places across the world. So like in the US, in Saudi Arabia. I was shocked by some of the things I heard, to be honest with you, in Norway, all over the world, really, in this one chat room where we all have this commonality of being bicultural with African heritage. And so we want to talk to each other, and I went away with that just being like, wow, there's already even so much diversity within this one group of people who are to an extent like-minded, and just being able to learn from each other on such a platform is like, I left a much better person after 2 hours than I was going into that conversation. And I think that that's what people should understand, that Omek can do and does for people already. But the potential of, you know, the potential of a conversation, and going back to the very beginning, we're going back to this spiral thing, the potential of a phone call, because if it wasn't for a phone call, I would not have been there. You know what I mean? And what that phone call and just conversations with open-minded conversations can do for people. And one thing that was super crazy as well, Lewis, about this conversation, right, was just before this, like we have a group actually created by Omek, which our association contributed to as well, of getting new people in, is this Afro Student Network in Europe so far. So we have a bunch of board members from different associations all over the continent, basically, that speak together, and you know, we try to collaborate on certain things, and we all came to this under the Baobab event, for example. Bro, one of the people in that group chat was John from Tanzania, bro, who went to Hope. Bro, what? I saw his face. You know, I saw his face. I was like, what is this, man? You know what I mean? So it's this thing, man. It's shining.
That's the networking
light,
working is magic, man. That's the networking.
It's shining the light, man. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I would have never known that John is part of an Afro Student Association in Norway, you know, that we might now potentially collaborate if this light hadn't been shown. And I think that's really like the essence of Omek, is shining this light and bringing people together and creating understanding between people and learning, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah, I feel like our interaction is just such an example, a case study of Omek, right? It's like a beautiful case study of what Omek is trying to accomplish and what it is, right? Yeah, it was beautiful to see you and John. It's like, yo, you what and then we talking about like African diaspora experiences, like from Canada, from Belgium, from like and then someone from Saudi Arabia just dropped something, and everybody's like, whoa.
God damn.
But again, it's like this is a space we're trying to create, because you're right. Like, I've been having this kind of conversation for so many times, but like when I left that conversation, I was like just always in a different place, man. You just go in and you come out like a better person every single time.
Yep.
And yeah, that's why we like, that's the concept of Omek. Like right now in the practical sense, like, yeah, we're doing a lot of networking event. We organize summits to bring people together. But one of the things like I'm really proud of, it's like this Afro student network that we're bringing together across Europe. Because for me, like when I went to US, there's a two reason I'm really doing this. When I went to US, I had this linear mindset, right? I'm going there, I'm gonna go to Harvard, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna have the best education and work for the best company and come back home. But there were so many things in between that I didn't factor in. Like, oh, you're coming from a French-speaking country. This is, English. You have to learn that. Oh, in America, the school is so expensive. Like, you have to work and pay. Oh, you have to get your paper. Oh, you have to get this. And but if you graduate, you have to have a internship. Well, I have no idea what that was. Or you need to have a mentor to guide you. I have no idea what that concept even meant. But I had to do all this by myself. And so why does it make sense to 20 years later, 25 years later, like Afro students that's come in and go through the same process, right? Like, I think for me, that's my first motivation. Like, we gone through this. I know people in such a high level in companies that one phone call, one email would open the door for so many people. Then, like, I want to build the space, right? So, like, if Omeka had to happen, it had to start from Afro students network. That's one of the reasons that for me it makes so much sense. And the second reason, really, like, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. It's like, yo, when you break it down, like being an Afro student, when you come in and you're trying to figure out, you're trying to understand the language, and think about the integration, think about your study, think about all this. And an example, someone who's born here and white from the Netherlands doesn't have to do all this. And they already have a network. By the time with the second year, their parents already finding them like through the network, like internship. By the time they graduate, they have a job. And so like this Afro student, it doesn't matter how smart you are, there's this huge gap, right? And I'm like, if we're gonna build the Omek network, let's close that gap. Or man, like give them the advantage, because you're bicultural, man. Your bicultural identity. If you're on the same stage here, you can get in, like you can leverage the network of Omek to get all these things that you need with our internship, coaching, mentorship, inspiration, everything. You put you here, then I tell you, yo, your bicultural identity is a special. You are the future of the workforce. And then now you automatically here. Mentally, you here. And so that's the concept that we're trying to build with the Afro Student Network. So that's something like already is happening. Already it's like, we haven't even started yet. But like from the professional perspective, like, yeah, we've done all these events, all this activity that used to really bring, like these professionals together to move forward. So yeah, if this is your first time hearing about Omek, just check it out.
For sure. Definitely check that out.
Yeah, Louis, you gotta come to some of the events, Louis, for real, man.
Yeah, that's actually like when I was on the website, I saw the Under the Baobab event, and I was like just reading the description. I think even the name is just, it sounds like such a useful and beneficial event that like people can go to, and like you said, like start these conversations and then build from there. When you're on the highway, like see people, break down that barrier, talk to people, and then build from there. Because like Kemo and Marty said, like you often don't realize before you take part in these things, but once you are taking part in these things and talking, making these conversations, and afterwards, you'll feel so much better, because you're learning about different people, different cultures, but also just gaining other people's experience. And like you said, like it makes you feel like you're a better person after listening into these events. And that's kind of like in this discussion that we've had right now, that's kind of how I feel. But I wanted to ask you, Kemo, like through the creation of Omek, since it's great because you're like wanting to leverage sort of the, or bring to like the African diaspora, right, and create this this foundation for them and like a collaborative platform. But for you, like putting you under the lens a little bit, but like for you, like since the creation of Omek, how have you personally sort of developed or like seen some benefits come to you? Not necessarily, well, I just mean like how have you sort of, how has your knowledge increased or just that your experience expanded? Like what are the benefits that you've experienced through this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, that's why actually I get so excited about Omek, and I'm like, because I feel like I'm in the privileged space, like literally where I am today compared to last month, not even last year, like compared to last month is totally different. Like every single conversation, every single network, every single connection that I have, it just makes me a better person. Like I think I was just talking about this, like with Omek, before I was like, even though I'm working for corporate, I done all this stuff. I done the community B. I still hadn't like, how can I make an impact on the society? Like, I know that's the reason why I'm here. Like, human interact, like a social aspect is a big thing. Like for me, like I'm an extrovert. I connect with people really nicely and easily. It's easy, natural for me to bring people together wherever I go. Like I was doing, it felt like all this fragmented. I have no idea. I'm like, oh, this is easy for me. That's not a thing. Like this is, and like with Omek has allowed me to start bringing them together and to start connecting these dots. And that's like basically making me a better person, a better human being. And I'm excited like next month that I'm going to be a better person than I am today. And so like that is consistently happening, like a month per month, like conversation by conversation. But in addition to that, like Omek is also giving me even this psychographic segmentation. It just, dude, it opened the door. I wish I had known this few years ago when I was like so involved in the community building, right? And so I can see the potential of it. So it's giving me that. It's also giving me access. It is a privileged space where I've been in to talk to so many people within the community, from ballroom to classroom, and then hearing their story and then being so, yo, this is so clear, this is so powerful, it's my responsibility to like do something with this. So
Yeah.
I see, like I'm like this such an example of Omek. Like, yo, I'm connecting with all these people. I want everybody to be able to connect with all these people. I want this connection to I want to make this normal. Everybody need to be in this same space to talk to people from the ballroom, to hear their experience as a bicultural of African descent. What does that mean? And talk to someone who's first year university. What does that mean? And then everything else in between. It just need to be normal. Like, and I'm in that space, right? And so that's the concept. Like, it's, yeah, Omek is opening this door. Like, it's opening the door for me for the community. But outside the community, like the inbound that I'm getting right now from big brands, from big companies, from like that would never connect with me before. So I see the interest there. And so I see everything coming together to like, whoa, where we can go and what can. But yeah, short answer to your question, it's making me a better person. It's making me a better person, but also like making my purpose in this life much clearer. Like every day, I'm like, this is a privilege. This is for me a way to make an impact on the society, a sustainable impact on the society. So yeah. That's
I
what
like that.
excites me, man. That's what excites me.
I like that a lot. I feel like this is quite a difficult question. I realize now because like for example, if you were to ask me that about Nomadic, of course there's like a couple of things that I can just say off the top of my head that have made me a better person, but like compared to, or just looking at how the progression of Nomadic and like where it's going, it's like difficult to sort of find or define exactly what is happening or like where it's going, you know what I mean? And connecting those dots. But I think through having conversations like these, like you said, it's making you a better person. And for me, I feel like through these, you can get a better understanding of maybe getting closer to that definition of what it is you're seeking, or like what your purpose is. And yeah, like what you can sort of provide for the community as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, I mean, what are you guys doing to, like, again, like, start with that flipping that concept of like we are lost, and now like it's a huge potential, and then the more and more people that are in that space that haven't heard of like you guys, but they like have that sense of lost environment, like this lost idea, like so if once they find you, and you kind of opening this door to them, and it's like,
Yeah.
but for yourself alone, like for yourself, like it's, you know, having this conversation, more and more people, like more nomadic people, like you just learning, man, like you just learning from someone who moved somewhere else. What is their life experience? How, like, just, yeah, I think from that perspective, like, and but I think that's what I like the question though, because I ask myself all the time, like it's a challenging, it's not easy, but the more you can answer that question for yourself, and the closer you are, like, or the more that you are connecting there for yourself, because that's the most important, like, and it's a journey, so understanding is a journey, right? And so you're never gonna finish, you're just gonna keep going, like the moment you stop, that's where everything falls apart. And but like it can be hard sometimes, you may not know, like, why am I doing this, like sometimes I have this question, like, why am I, like, before, in the first couple of months past, like, you know, I was like, what am I doing, like, and then I have this conversation, I'm like, yes, this is why, and then to keep connecting more and more and
That's
more
exactly
that
what it is.
and so the more that you connect, the more you can become like, yo, this is important, this is like a, you know, a responsibility that's what given to me for being on this, you know, on this earth, to like be able to like create a little changes. And for me, that really is so exciting, it's like not even funny, you know.
I think you mentioned something that I think is really important in I think anything that we do, right? Because we really ask ourselves often, like, why do I do something? So I personally believe like you really have to have strong motivations and reasons as to why you do certain things. Like why, you know, why do you work hard? Why are you working on this project? Whatever that may be. And I think there's a difference between having like strong underlying motivations, like for example, I want to be successful to provide for my family or something, like that can be a why, right? But then there's different whys, as in, why am I doing this specific thing, such as like Omek, for example, or a Nomadic in our case. And I think that sometimes we have to trust that as we're going through a process, we're going to run into different moments where a light bulb just switches and it's like, this is why. And then you might go a long time again being like, okay, sometimes, you know, maybe losing your way a little bit, not understanding, okay, why is it actually that I started this? And you have to trust in your process that you're going to get to another moment where you're having this other why thing. And maybe if you're not, you maybe need to change directions a little bit based on what you're doing, right? And I think that that's something that I have with Nomadic often. It's like one of the first whys that I got was like, someone asked me to be part of this association because they saw that the work we're doing with Nomadic. So then I was like, okay, wow, this is, you know, people are impressed by what it is that we're doing. It's clearly having an impact based on what they're seeing. So I was like, all right, that's cool. You know, then we got some more people on the team and they were super excited to be a part of it. So I was like, okay, this is a good why. Like, people obviously messing with it. I like what I'm doing, so that's a good reason. And then you see someone, you know, you shouldn't necessarily put your focus too much on other people, but you see like someone maybe said, okay, yo, I saw y'all doing this with Nomadic, I'm doing my own thing now. So that's why I'm like, okay, yep, this is why we're doing it. And trusting in your process and knowing that along the way of what you're doing, even though there might be time in between, that different moments are going to come as to like why your reasoning and the new motivations come in, you have to trust that that's going to keep on coming.
Yeah.
Totally agree. It's a process, man. It's a journey, and it does help. Like if you're around people, that like the same like-minded people, right? Always help. Like it just always. That's why it's like that environment is so crucial. Because we make it happen. We talk about it. Like, oh, so like if you're going through that thing, then it's like you talk to Kemo, and then it's like, yo, I'm going through the same thing, or I was just going through it last week, and then it's like, okay, that's cool. Like, it's a 10. Like you just talk about it and you move on. But it's harder to be around other people that don't understand that don't have that concept. Then it's kind of like you feel so isolated too, right? So, but it's a journey, man. It's a journey. It's a privilege. I use that word, like it's a privilege. So,
guys, if I may, I think that's a really, I think, powerful kind of moment to start kind of ending on. It's a journey.
Yes.
It's a process that we're continually on, and like we always say, and like many people say, is that you got to love your process. Because it's not about the end result. You might have an end result, but it's really about the journey and what you learn and kind of get along the way, so to say. So Kemo, we're definitely going to highlight something that you said in this conversation. But first, something that we always do at the end of our podcast is ask our guest if there is a motivational quote or just a quote in general that that's important to them or that resonates with them, that you can tell us about. And if not, we always got you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know like if there's maybe there is one. There's a quote that I go by, because I would say like be yourself, but that's not an easy thing at all. I think people usually say that you get there when you figure out what centers you. But right now, I think there's a quote that I've been fond of lately, because it captures exactly what I do and who I am. Is you serve yourself when you serve others. Yeah, and so the best way to serve yourself is like when you're serving others. For me, like when I saw that, it just sounds like simple, but like, yo, that's just me. Like, thank you for saying that, because when I support other, when I help other people, and then when I contribute to the success of other people, man, that feelings
gives you energy.
Just can't even compare it.
Yeah.
Just from this short like moment that I've met you right now, I feel like just from our discussions and our talks, that quote is definitely explains who you are and what you're doing with Omek as well. Like
crazy.
Definitely.
Very much so.
That's definitely that will be the quote, man. It just explain who, like, it just captures like everything that I do. I'm like, this is beautiful.
That's definitely one to remember. I even saw that coming by the other day, to be honest, somewhere on socials, and I was like, this is powerful.
That's like that someone passed it. I think that's like, I forgot his name. It's like one of the older architect from Nigeria that said this, and then he's a mentee, is someone that's in part of the N.O.M.A.D.I.C architect group. So he's a big fan of that code, and then he's like, Kemo, I'll tell you this code because we had the conversation, and then after we talk, like all that I think about is like this code. I'm like, yes, definitely, like this is my code. So I'm like just running with it.
Sweet.
So there was one thing that you said that I wanted to highlight, and I think you said earlier, if you see each other, you talk to each other. And when you talk to each other, you build trust. And when you build trust, you start collaborating. When you start collaborating, then the sky's the limit. So I think this really summarizes as well, I think, our relationship and the fact that we saw each other in this first phone call. And that's what has us having this conversation here, this awesome conversation here today. And, we see each other. We've talked to each other, we built trust, and we're collaborating already, and I hope we continue collaborating for a very long time. I hope we can sooner rather than later also collaborate with Omek and Nomadic and, you know, put on something awesome.
You're gonna be on the summit. You're gonna be on the summit. There's no soon.
You know what I'm saying?
That's already happening, man. So I don't know if you want to announce it now or not. We're gonna be on the Omek summit. So we're not wasting time. Every low hanging fruit, we like.
I love that.
I love that. Omek Nomadic, it's happening. You heard
Yeah,
it.
it's happening.
So all the links to that stuff is gonna be in the description, to Omek, to the summit, to everything that we talked about today. You can find down below. I mean, all I have to say is thank you very much, man.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Oh man, this was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. You guys set the bar. Louis set the bar so high. I'm like, oh man, I need to have like this water here and then see how I do.
No, you definitely came through, man. You definitely came through above and beyond, man.
Honestly.
So, but yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. I was really happy when you were like, hey, can we have you on your podcast? I'm like, yes, before you even finish it, absolutely. Like, anytime, and then let me make it happen. So I'm glad I've been here and then chat and just share the story. I mean, this is our story, you know. So it's the more we can communicate that, and hopefully some people can hear it and then feel connected to it, and then be part of something that's bigger than themselves. Like that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say on est ensemble. We're together.
On est ensemble. Yes. C'est la famille. C'est la famille.
Voilà.
How do you say that in Bambara?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on, don't do that to me.
No,
I don't know anyway. So
yeah.
All links to everything we talked about in the bio right here. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'd be also very honored if you share it and hit the notification button so that you don't miss any future music videos and or podcasts. Peace.